Hello everyone, this is Brian Ka with another video to help you navigate through your first year of law school, and also if you have to take the baby bar exam, give you some important and valuable tips so that you can pass that test as well. So I was looking at some people on YouTube. They were talking about their struggles, in particular in online law schools, and I just wanted to record this video to those that are really struggling and not passing your first year, so that after watching this video you can get some valuable tips, some insights, and new perspective so that you can pass your finals, your midterm, or eventually your first year law school exam or the baby bar, so that you can continue your law studies. So as you know, I failed a lot in life. I talk about this a lot in my videos, but I failed first year of law school 3 times. First time was at a brick and mortar, and I wasn't good enough, or they said. So I went to another unaccredited distance learning law school, and after another year, total of 2 years now, they said that I can either repeat my first year again or give up. So instead of giving up, I decided to give it another shot. So I did another year, and after that another year, I was eligible to take the baby bar exam, and this was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, when I took the baby bar exam, I did not pass. My essay grades were decent, but my MBE grades were not passing. So I took a 10-year break, and during that break, I always imagined myself retaking the test and imagine myself enrolling in law school, and also like what I'm doing now, I'm imagining myself doing trials in front of the jury, in front of the judge, and the opposing counsel, and making my arguments. So now part of that imagination came true, and here I am trying to enlighten some of you who are just struggling and not doing good in their first year of law studies. And hopefully after watching this video, you'll just gain some really valuable insight so that you can pass your upcoming midterm, your final, or your first year of law school exam, or so-called the baby bar. So here's the bad news. The bad news is that you all walked into a trap. Why do I say that you walked into a trap? Well, let me tell you this. You walked into a trap because the first year baby bar exam result has always been around 20% or less. Now, for the 2024 June baby bar exam result, if you go to the State Bar website, they just released it. And fortunately, after they decided to take out the essay portion and just do 100 MBE questions, the pass rate did increase slightly, but not by much. For example, in my law school, out of 16 people that took it, 4 people passed. Now, 3 of the people that passed are from last year, were last year first year students, And the person, the retaker, was me. So out of 16 people, there were only 4 takers who passed. Now, I think that's like somewhere around 30% or less. And if I didn't decide to take the test, it would have been 3 out of 15. Now, if you look at other results from other schools, it's even lower. Like some schools may have, 10%, 12%. Another school like ours, I believe it was also 33%, which is not bad. But still, the bad news is that even if they change the format of the test to just multiple choice questions, getting rid of the essay portion, the passing percentage of people who are eligible to get their first year law school credit and go on to their second year is still very hard. I mean, we're talking about, it used to be 20%, 22%. That's what? 2 out of 10 people that passed. And now it's somewhere around 3 out of 10 people, So this test, as well as your first year of law school, especially those who are enrolled in an online law school or you're in a correspondence law school, the numbers should indicate that they don't want a lot of people to pass this test and go on with their law studies. This is like a process to weed out people rather than a process to pass people. It's obvious from the numbers. It's obvious from people who end up advancing into their second and third year. So that was the bad news. Now, what's the good news? Because you should always talk about the good and the bad, right? The good news is that you have found me. You have found the person who has been in your shoes, who has failed first year of law school over and over and over again. Someone who has failed the baby bar exam and 10 years later ended up passing that exam. So you found me, you found the person, a friend, who can share with you exactly what you need to do in order to pass your first year of law school, as well as passing the baby bar exam. So hopefully you understand that, again, you walked into a trap. And why did you walk into a trap? You walked into a trap because here's the kicker. Everything that you learn in law school, what you do in classes, the Socratic method, briefing cases, they have nothing to do with your ability to take exams, take the first year law school exam and pass. What do I mean by that? It's like this. Let's say that you're a basketball player. I always make basketball analogies, right? Someone told you when you first started playing basketball or learning how to play basketball that in order for you to become a good basketball player, you need to start swimming. And if you keep swimming, you're going to be playing varsity basketball in high school. You're going to be playing college basketball and so forth. And now, swimming may help build your body and prepare your body to become a better athlete. It may help you jump higher, run faster, be a little bit more flexible. But what you need to do is practice basketball. Now, they made you look one way, and they basically tested you on something totally different. And this is what I mean by the biggest trap in law school. And I was also one of the persons that fell victim to it. And it took me never giving up, first of all. It took me 3 more tries in order to understand, this is what law school is about. The law schools do not teach you what you need to know in order to pass the midterms, your finals, or the first year of law school exam. So what do you need to do? Because somebody on YouTube, I just saw a video. Obviously, I'm not going to mention who, she says she's reading, right? Because every law school class requires that you do case reading. She says she's briefing. She says she's studying, but she's failing every single test. She's failing every single quiz. Why is this happening? Well, this is happening because, again, they're making you look one way and they're testing you on something totally different. Now, if you work for a law firm, if you're like a paralegal, if you have a lawyer in your family, let's say your father was a lawyer, let's say your close uncle was a lawyer, they may teach you exactly what you need to do in order to get a passing grade in law school, in order to pass your first year law school exam and eventually pass the bar exam. But unless you have access to those types of people, you're not gonna find, or you're not gonna discover how to pass your classes, how to pass the baby bar exam. So what do you need to do? Well, what you need to do is you need to start looking at past exams that are available on the State Bar website. Why do I say this? I say this because let's say that you're taking torts, that you're taking contracts, you're taking criminal law for your first year of law school, right? You've attended all your classes. You never missed a class. You've never missed any homework assignments. When the professor called your name during class, you stood up and you were able to answer questions because you read all your classes. But for some reason, you're failing because for your midterm, you got a D minus. For your final exam, you got a D minus. Now, this is happening because what you're learning through case law, what you're learning through Socratic method, doesn't teach you how to perform well on these written tests that are very similar to the bar exam essay questions or FYLSE past exams when they used to give out essay portion for the baby bar. It's very, very similar. So I said this in my previous video that if you have time during your classes, instead of paying attention and wasting your time, I said what you should do is get a commercial outline and start memorizing the outline. Because why do you need to memorize the outline? It's because when you write essays, law school essays are very formulaic, meaning if you're in a creative writing class, it follows a certain format. I give you that. But it's not so formulaic, whereas it's like 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals a certain number. The good news is that in law school, the writing that you're going to have to do is very formulaic. Now, in order to write these tests, you have to use a method called the IRAC method. And what is the IRAC method? It is I stands for issue. You have to spot the issue. You have to know R, which is the rule. You have to know the rule, another word for what's the law pertaining to the issue at hand. And then you have to know how to analyze, meaning using every element in your rule section, meaning, for example, let's say that you are writing an essay where in the fact pattern, somebody, saw somebody's watch and then that person picked it up. And in his head, he wanted to take that watch and go back home with it. But as soon as the watch owner came near him, he dropped it. Now, this is the issue. The issue in this case, in this short fact pattern, would be, did this person commit larceny, right? Because I'm sure you've taken criminal law, or if you haven't taken it, soon you will if you're finishing your first year. And the issue would be in the IRAC section would be, hey, did this person commit larceny, right? Now, what's the rule of larceny? The rule of larceny would be you're taking, right? You're taking and carrying away, right? This person took, and when you take something, it doesn't need to be taking something and putting it in your pocket. You can just take it and drop it, and that would be sufficient, right? Taking away, another person's property, that would be the second element, right? That watch, whose was it? Was it your watch? Was it somebody else's watch, right? So the second element, taking away, first element, taking away, someone else's property. That watch was someone else's property, right? Taking away someone else's property with intent, because as you know, for criminal law, you need actus reus, the action, and you need the mental, the intent to steal, right? So taking and carrying away with intent to permanently deprive, right, of that person's property, right? Did this person have the intent to permanently deprive of that person's property? Yes, because in his head, when he picked it up, he wanted to take that watch home. And, unless he was caught, he would have been successful in taking that watch home, right? So I just, went over like one example of what you need to do, in the rule section, and in the analysis, you're separating the rule into little sections. They're called elements, and you're basically using the fact pattern to fit, every element. And then after you talk about whether the short paragraph or fact pattern that you're given, whether or not, it fits or doesn't fit or satisfy each element, then you conclude with the C section of IRAC, which would be conclusion, So this person would be liable for larceny, or this person wouldn't be liable for larceny. If we're talking about conspiracy, if we're talking about extortion, if we're talking about murder, you would conclude, yes, this person has committed murder. This person has committed, conspiracy or solicitation. So, what I said about writing law school exams in this short scenario I just gave, it is very formulaic. But one thing about law school exams is that unless you have the rules or the law memorized in your head, it is impossible to write these essays. Therefore, I kept suggesting to you that in your law school classes, unless you have a professor who's kind of mean and like to pick on you, which I've had in the past, you should just have a commercial outline that works for you. And now if you have issues with choosing which commercial outlines to choose, I talked about that in my previous video, so you can go back and see what I said about choosing the best commercial outline for your law studies, right? So if you spend time in your classes just memorizing the law, if you know the law, what will happen is when you start reading any fact pattern, you're gonna start seeing issues pop out because you have memorized all the rules, all the law in your head. But unless you have the rules memorized, you're not going to be able to write these essays, right? Even now, I haven't taken criminal law in over a year. No, over like 10 years, but I went through it for the June baby bar exam. So it's been a while. I usually go over it, but I had it memorized. It's not a long, law, but you have to memorize every element. Like, if you're talking about offer for contracts, I don't have notes in front of me. I don't have a cheat sheet, or I don't have a commercial outline. But if you're talking about offer, you would talk about a definite manifestation of contractual intent, right? Communicated to an identified offeree, like that. Like you have to memorize each law, and you have to be able to write each element according to the facts. So if you don't have this memorized in your head, what's going to happen is that every law school, every class will have similar exams. And what are they? They're usually not multiple choice, but instead they're a bunch of fact patterns, right? There are a bunch of fact patterns that are given to you, maybe different from school to school, classes from class from class, but basically they just give you a bunch of fact pattern. That's very similar to the past exams that are given on the State Bar website. So another thing that you should do is, you need to go over the past exams. And some of you may say, like, I'm not taking the bar for another 3 years, 4 years, so I don't need to go over the State Bar website's past exams. But that is wrong, because unless you understand how to write the State Bar website past exams, you're not going to do well in your law school classes. Again, why? The reason for that is law school exams are very similar to past bar exam questions. Again, going back to the fact that you walked into a trap. Now, why did I say that again? It's because when you're attending law school, unless you have somebody, coaching you, unless you have a tutor teaching you how to write these exams, what you learn in class, it has nothing to do with how well you're gonna perform, in those essay questions that are given as midterms or your final exam, right? Like, let me give you an example again. Most students at my school, I'm a second year, and every person that are in my class now, they have passed the first year law school exam, So out of 10 people that usually take it, 20 to 30% pass. The exact, I would say between 20 to 30%. So these people, our school, especially after, passing the baby bar exam, 3 more years, I think the cumulative bar passage rate over the past 5 years is something like 78%. That's pretty high. And why is it high? It's because in order for you to pass the baby bar exam, you need to understand like exactly what you need to do, right? If you don't understand what I've just talked about, memorizing the law and being able to write according to elements, you're not going to pass the baby bar exam or the bar exam. So people who are now in their second years in my school, they already know that. So they're really good. But there are, like 1 or 2 people like they don't really get it yet. Like there is one guy, like, again, I'm never gonna share their personal info, but there's one guy, like, I don't know how this is possible, but he says that he hasn't taken the first year baby bar exam, but still managed to become a second year, in my school, and that's rare because for my law school, in order for you to advance into your second year, you have to pass the baby bar exam. But I guess there are exceptions. I'm not sure how this is possible, but I guess it exists. But anyway, like, when you talk to your classmates, when they throw questions, the difference between those that have managed to pass the baby bar exam, understanding what it takes to pass the bar exam also, versus a person who hasn't, passed the baby bar exam but still managed to become second year, there's a huge difference, First of all, like, I don't think that person has ever, gone through any of the past exams. So when professors want to know, like, what you should write for a community property essay, like, they have no idea, because I don't even think that they have taken their time to look over the past bar exam questions for community property. Whereas, a person like me, starting from day one for this particular class, community property, I collected like 8 essays, past essays that were given for this subject, community property, and I have done them like at least twice now, right? If you want to write for these essays, again, what do you have to do? You have to know the law. You have to know like what separate property is. You need to know what community property is. You need to know like how to calculate when the value of separate property business increases due to community efforts, due to market conditions. You need to know how to resolve situations where a spouse commingles funds Commingling meaning they commingled both their own separate property and community property and purchased a boat. Now, when that happens, how do you trace it? Like, do you use the exhaustion method? Do you use the direct tracing method? And so forth. Like, how do you resolve situations where both spouses they decide to title something as joint title? What happens when you have a joint title? When do you apply the Lucas case law, and when do you apply the anti-Lucas law, and so forth? So everything that I've just kind of said in my, about community property, I have all of that memorized. Now, like, if you're not used to like memorizing the law, you may be like, how the heck am I supposed to memorize all that? But hey, a lot of people pass the bar, and it's not just me that has memorized all these. People who have passed the bar exams, they all have memorized all of these for each subject. Some people say, for like 13 or 14 subjects, you just have to memorize around 25, black letter law. I don't know if it's true or not. For community property, there's definitely, I would say, like around 20 or less, but they're very technical. So unless you really comprehend what's really happening, you're not going to pass this class as well. So going back to another colleague of mine that hasn't taken the baby bar exam but somehow managed to become a second year, like, that person has no idea, and you're probably, at that stage too, because nobody told you, how to study for your in-class exams. Nobody told you, how to study for the baby bar exam. Now, another thing that I wanted to say is that, the person that talked about their struggles as a first-year online law school student that I just watched, that person said, in 3-4 years, I want to be, ready for the bar exam. But let me tell you something. If you can't write for your classes, and if you can't memorize, or if you can't write for the 3 subjects that are tested on the baby bar exam, how are you going to advance to your second or third year, first of all? Because that exam, as I've talked about in the beginning of this video, it's 20% pass rate. This past exam in June 2024, I think it was around 30%. So we're talking about out of 10 people, 2 or 3 people pass, which is very low. I told you that in my school, 16 people passed. 16 people took the test. 3 people passed from last year's first year, and I'm the only person, that's retaking it from my school for this year that have passed. So that's 4 out of 16 people. I thought it was 3 out of 16 before, but I looked at the result. It was 4 out of 16 people. That's not that high, right? So unless you understand the concept that I'm explaining to you, unless you understand that nothing you do in class, your assignments, your homework, will not help you ace your midterm for your contracts, your criminal law, your torts class, it's not going to prepare you for your baby bar exam. So another thing that I wanted to say is, I think the fact that, if you are doing the wrong thing, and expecting to get better. I think that's what some people would call it as the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different result, right? Now, some of you may be lucky to have found me and watch this video, and after watching this video, hopefully you'll understand that the message that I'm trying to get across to you through this video again is that nothing you do as homework assignments or Socratic method case briefing will help you ace your exams in your law school classes or help you pass the baby bar exam. And unless you start recognizing this and start looking over at past exams like I've talked about, and change the way you look at law school and really understand this trap that they that they basically set you up in, you're not gonna do well. If you end up passing, it's probably because you're like me, where until you actually understood what's going on, which took me 3 years, but I never give up. Usually people after first year fail, they give up, They may try again, the second time, but they'll give up on their second try, which happened to another colleague of mine. That was 10 years ago. We both did first year twice at this law school that I'm in. But for me, that was the third time because I did a year and 6 months at a brick and mortar, and then I did another 2 years. But for that colleague of mine, it was their second try, and they gave up. So they didn't have the chance to, go on with their second year of law studies, take the baby bar exam, and, eventually be eligible to take the bar exam. So unless you're somebody like me who just don't like to give up, and no matter what happens in life, I just keep moving forward, it's gotta be difficult, and some of you may say, like, I have life problems, I have work issues, school issues, relationships, I'm getting married, but you don't really want to fall into that hole where you start making excuses for everything. It may sound mean, and you may say like, hey, like, what do you know about me? My life is a lot tougher. Trust me, I know. I mean, I don't talk about my problems, in front of the camera, but trust me, if I start talking about what has happened to me in the past 10 years, you're not going to believe it. But, I have managed to just keep going, and obstacles and hardships, it makes you stronger mentally. I didn't really believe in this, but, when recently, what has bothered me in the past, 6-7 years, it kept repeating again. And, there are forces out there that really didn't want me to advance in life, and they wanted to just drag me down. But, compared to 6 years ago, they're using the same exact method, doing the same exact things to drag me down. And they didn't, advance into life. They didn't get better. Meanwhile, it's like me, how they say diamonds are, made in the harshest conditions, with lots of pressure, diamonds are formed. So, for me, like, they put in so much pressure, so much, illegal, stuff they did to me in order to hurt me has made me so strong that now the same method that they're using, since 6 years ago to kind of destroy me is not affecting me at all. And, you know how I said I didn't believe in, obstacles and hardship making a person stronger. I didn't really believe in that saying, but, observing myself now, looking at how I am able to, deflect, all these things that, they're doing to try to, drag me down. It's not having any effect anymore. When something happens to you for so long, you just get used to it and you're like, oh yeah, you just, I'm not, at a stage in life where I want to give that any attention. I have more things to do. After I finish law school, pass the bar exam, I gotta go out there, help the brothers and sisters in need, and and if they're unfairly incarcerated and they don't have money, I gotta be out there and rescue them. I have that kind of conviction in my heart now. So, there are people that need me. And I'm not gonna waste my time giving these low frequency energies any attention, because there are people that don't need me. That's what is getting me going. That's what's motivating me now. So again, everybody has obstacles. Everybody has hardships. Everybody is living life, and life ain't easy. But if you're making an excuse like, I'm having all these things happening to me, trust me, dear, there are people who are going through a lot worse, including myself, that has managed to just keep going. And, once you start making excuses, it'll never end. So don't get into that mindset. Another thing that I wanted to end with is that since this is like a marathon, some of you may be going to a 3-year law school, ABA, but a lot of people that are watching this are probably from, online law schools, correspondence law schools, and they just have no idea how to get over this hurdle, right? So, I just wanted to say that I never felt that your health, was as important as it is when you're trying to, go through law school, because, once you get sick, once your body starts breaking down, your mind also breaks down and you just can't go on. And, I just wanted to say that, you really have to take care of your body. I'm over 40 now, and I was a basketball player all my life, but I didn't play for about 10 years, ever since, struggles, started in my life. But, I know the importance of being strong mentally and physically. So now, every day, if I can, unless I feel really tired, my body just doesn't want to do it, I try to go out and shoot basketball hoops, and I try to run a little bit. I try to walk as much as I can, because you don't want to be somebody who's getting sick and just can't manage to continue this marathon. 4 years goes by fast, but if you really think about it, going to class 6 hours a week, every day studying 6-7 hours every day, for the bar exam, you're probably gonna have to do like 12 hours a day. It's demanding, mentally and physically. So I think it's so important that you stay on top of your physique. I'm not saying that you should be like all buff and muscular, which would be nice, but at least try to stay healthy. try to eat, good food. One thing about me is I cut out meat. Like if I have nothing to eat, I'll have a little bit of it. But now I'm mostly vegetarian, and I feel good. I've lost weight. I can think clearly. That's the biggest thing about being vegetarian is I can think clearly. So Nemo. Sorry, my dog is barking. But yeah, make sure you stay on top of your physique, top shape, because law school is a rigorous, demanding sacrifice, and unless you're physically fit to go through this rigorous process, you're not going to get through it. You may be acing every class, but because of your diet, because of some medical conditions, if you cannot continue, then who else are you going to blame? You have no one to blame but yourself. So make sure that you focus on staying healthy. I don't even smoke cigarettes anymore. It's been a while, like 4 or 5 years, and I feel good, being vegetarian, not smoking anything. Drinking, I'll have some wine or beer here and there, but not to the point where I'm totally, inebriated, breated. I don't drink that much anymore. I just have, a glass of wine here and there, after dinner. I'll have like a bottle of beer, once in a while, but nothing more than a bottle, because I don't want my mind to wander off and not being able to focus on what's at hand. So I hope this was a informative video for you. It's been like 50 minutes since I started talking. It's a little bit longer, but there's no way for me to put this into a 15-minute video. This is a serious subject, and something that somebody will need. This is definitely not for everybody, and that is why I don't really pay attention to views or subscribers, because this subject of doing well in law school, passing the baby bar exam, it's like for a select few in California, and other people in other states are trying to pass the bar in California. So this is definitely not a subject in which I care about having more views or subscribers. The only thing that I really care about is, those of you who are watching this video, those of you who are failing in your 1L, failing in your baby bar exam, that you'd watch this and really, I hope that it helps, and that's the only thing that I'm worried about. Again, I'm making these videos free of charge. I'm just releasing them because, when I was in your shoes, I always think about whether if I had somebody like me at the time when I was struggling like you, like I'm a music producer. If I had one person, as an independent music producer, if I had one person that showed interest, if I had one person that shared my music when I created them, it would have meant the world to me. It would have given me so much motivation. But I didn't have any of that. I didn't have one single person that tried to help me out when I was failing for 3 years in law school. I didn't have anybody who showed any interest in my music, creation, even though I believe they're great, but not a single person that showed support. And when you look back later, you can either be like, you know what, I'm gonna be like those people, since nobody cared about me, then so I'm gonna be a person that doesn't care about people who used to be in my shoes. But rather now I'm just like, you know what, I want to be somebody that I needed but wasn't available. I want to be that person for somebody out there that truly needs my help. And that's what this channel, that's what this video is really about. So I hope that this helped you, and hope that this video will help you improve in your law school classes, do well, and hopefully help you pass the baby bar exam. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave any comments. I know that most of the people on YouTube, I don't believe that they're real humans. Most of them are bots. So, if I feel like it's like a robotic thing, then I might not respond. But if I genuinely feel it in my heart that you're a real person and you have questions about the things that I've said, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll try my best to respond. All right? So thank you, and I'll see you in another video.